Hi everybody, I'm Dr. John Reneski and welcome to New Media Marketing. This video is going to give you an overview of what we're doing in week one and also explain how it ties into the rest of the month as well. So without any additional information, let's just jump right into this. So week one, I'm going to give you an overview of marketing and campaign plans and their relationship. You probably already know that the capstone to this program is where you develop an integrated marketing plan. Well, I want to dig into that a little bit. I don't want to give you instructions for that final capstone, but I want to, in general, share with you the relationship between marketing plans and campaign plans. This is important because what we're actually developing in this course is we're developing a campaign. And you'll see that all come together by week four. In week one, you're identifying your marketing goals. These are the high-level goals for the entire marketing department for your case study company. Then what we do is we take a look at personas and we do research to identify the personas that are relevant to our brand or business. Then we're going to talk about what type of campaign we're going to develop. We're either going to develop an influencer campaign, and influencers, you'll learn, influencers are individuals that they share an audience with the brand, but they may have never partaken in the actual product or services of the brand. The most important thing is that they have an audience that is similar to the audience of your case study company. Then the other option is brand ambassador. Brand ambassador is exactly the opposite. A brand ambassador is someone that started as a customer, developed into a fan, and now we want to identify those top fans that have some of the influencer characteristics, or if they're just simply an over-the-top fan, that works too. And we want to recruit and develop them into an ambassador program. Now, typically, influencer campaigns have a finite duration, usually 3 to 6 months for most campaigns. You see some that run up to a year, but for the most part, they're finite. Where brand ambassadors, they're totally different. We want to develop, we're training. It's like having somebody in your business that you're training to do a specific task. So the relationship with brand ambassadors tends to develop over a period of time. And sometimes there's a stop. Other times they go on and on. I had a student, that's probably been about 3 years ago now, that was actually a brand ambassador for AMC Theaters. They had a very unique situation. Brand ambassadors for AMC had to be college students. They could be undergrad or graduates, and their term was a max of 2 years. So they could graduate within that framework, but once they reached the 2-year limit, they were thanked very nicely, I might say. And then a new ambassadors were brought in. All right, so that's what we're doing in week one. We're going to look at marketing and campaign plans, goals, personas, and campaign choice. Just so you see how this connects, in week two, you're actually going to go out and research and find actual individuals using new media channels. You're going to be looking on Facebook, Twitter, TikTok, YouTube, wherever your market is. You're going to be looking for real people that you can identify. And then in week three, as part of the campaign plan, you're going to identify an approach to recruit them into your marketing plan, into your marketing campaign. Finally, in week four, what we do is we identify how we're going to measure the success of your campaign. And that's how we put it all together. Let's take a little bit of a dive. So when we talk a marketing plan, there's a couple other things to keep in mind. every time that we develop a marketing or a campaign plan, we're always going to develop a measurement plan. So if I develop a marketing plan that has several goals in it, and I have I have another video that talks about this, but let me share with you briefly the top tier goals for a marketing department are going to be pretty much the same. They're going to be brand awareness or brand lift, lead generation, conversion, and then advocacy. Now, like I said, I have another video where I go into this in greater detail, but just so you have a general idea as we're going through this. All right, so whether we're at the marketing level or the campaign level, we always provide a measurement plan for the goals that we communicate. And that's important because, for example, at the end of a campaign or at the end of the year, we need to generate a marketing report that talks about how successful we were in achieving our goals. So those are the components: marketing plan, campaign plan, measurement plan, marketing report. So let's talk about what goes into a typical marketing plan. There's an executive summary, then there's market analysis, then there's a competitive analysis, an analysis of our target audience, and then we get to objectives. Now, what are objectives? Those are the goals, and I'll talk more about that in a few moments. Then we identify marketing strategies. What are marketing strategies? Well, marketing strategies are the tactics that we're going to use in order to achieve the objectives. And then we get to KPIs, which are the measurement plan. Okay? So, let's move on and talk about objectives versus goals. Again, I've got another video that really goes into this and really discusses SMART goals. But I want you to understand that depending on the company that you work for or the client that you work for, goals and objectives can be interchangeable. So everything I'm saying about a goal could be said about an objective, and everything I'm saying about an objective could refer to a goal. Confused yet? Well, don't. Bottom line is we use SMART goals. SMART goals are objectified. They're specific, they're measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound. I have relevant highlighted because relevant is a term that a lot of times we can't quite put our hand on whether a goal is relevant or not. And I'm going to talk to you about that in a few moments. So keep that in mind. Relevant is one of the, when we talk about specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound, that's SMART. All right. So when we talk about objectives or goals, there's business objectives, marketing objectives, channel objectives, campaign objectives, and then we get to tactics. Now, the reality is that a lot of times you'll see this as just 4 or 5 tiers, marketing, channel, campaign, and tactics. So let's take a look and see how this takes place. Marketing objectives, it refers to the overall performance of the company. Channel objectives, we're talking about specific channels. What are the different channels that we have? Well, we can take it from a very high level, which is that we have, a lot of times you'll hear this in terms of media. So we have paid media, we have owned media, and we have earned media. Talk more about that later on. Campaign objectives. These are similar to the marketing objectives, but we're looking at specific tactical outcomes. And then the tactics are what we measure to tell whether or not we're being successful. So let's talk about some of these in terms of measurement. How do we measure a marketing objective? Well, a lot of times these are aggregate metrics that are coming from a tool such as Google Analytics or Adobe Analytics. Channel objectives, we look at the channel success. So, for example, if we're using a Facebook as one of our channels, what would we measure? We could measure likes. We could measure click-throughs to a landing page. We could measure engagement. There's a lot of different metrics that we can use. Campaign objectives, we tend to go and we want to look at specific KPIs. And again, let's talk for a moment as to what a KPI is and what a metric is. So metrics are things that we can measure. KPIs, key performance indicator, tells us whether or not that objective is successful or not. It's the one measurement that we can look at and say, this is going to determine whether or not we're successful as it relates to this campaign element. All right, let us take a look. So if a lot of times you want to think of goal setting as a pyramid. At the very top is the company mission. Then we have the organization. In this case, if we have different strategic business units, one unit. I'll give you a great example in terms of marketing. The marketing division may be broken into digital marketing and terrestrial marketing. So we have two different groups within the organization. What are the marketing objectives? And we've already talked about what the top four are. Then what are the objectives for the channel? What are the objectives for the campaign? And ultimately, what are we measuring to tell whether or not we're successful or not? We can take this and build this out in terms of a template where you have company mission at the top, and then we go through each of the different layers. Now, at the top here, I have R, relevant, and alignment. So what's happening is, as we work our way down this pyramid, each time we go to a different level, what we're really doing is we're taking the goal, and then we're asking the question, how can we make that goal a reality? The answer to how can be 1, 2, or 3 things. And then if we take those items and we make them SMART, specific, measurable, achievable, because they're answering the question of how, we know they're relevant, and then finally time bound. And that's how we continue to work through the strategy pyramid. So we always start with the highest level defined objective, either an organization objective or a marketing objective, and ask the questions. How can I achieve this objective? Or what do I need to do to achieve this objective? The answers then become a lower level objective once it is made SMART. And you keep repeating this process until you're at the tactical level of the pyramid. Now, again, if we go back, I'll go back to the slide in a moment, our initial research, where's our initial research? It's our market analysis, our competitive analysis, our target audience analysis. That research is so critical because it provides the guidance that we need in how to answer these questions. All right, we're going to switch gears for a moment and take a look at personas. Basically, I'm going to give you a high-level look at 3. These you can find in Matt Collier's book, by the way. So the first is the customer. The customer is finicky. They're going to go where the impulse takes them. And why is that? Well, it's because the internet is the great equalizer. And that means when the internet is the great equalizer, price is usually going to lead most decisions. Not all, but a lot. So the customer does not necessarily care to build an ongoing relationship with the brand. Are there exceptions? Yes. Will I buy an Android phone? No. I'm an Apple guy. But I'm also not a Gen Y or Gen X. I'm a baby boomer. Our habits are a little bit different. I want to take a look at the specific problems that that product or service has solved. That's how I'm going to know. Now, the customer usually starts at what Google calls the zero moment of truth. That's the moment where they sit down at a computer and begin their search. Let's talk about the fan. The fan views themselves as owners of the brand. This is where we get into I'm no longer a customer of Apple. I'm a fan. I talk to people all the time about my Apple products. I talk to them about the fact that on the new Apple iPhone 13, I wouldn't do it necessarily, but if I wanted to, I could probably come very close to shooting a feature-length film with all the tools and capabilities that the iPhone 13 has. That's a fan. I'm acting as a representative of the brand and telling people that this is the product that you should ultimately get. When Apple does something wrong, guess what? I'm usually on their Twitter feed or I'm sending them a letter. I'm letting them know that they did something that's going to hurt the brand. At the same point in time, a lot of times I will interact when I see something really good. Or, even better yet, if I run into a problem, I'm more likely to work it out with the brand. Now, years ago, iMovie was built on a totally different platform. And iMovie was a very, very unstable piece of software. And as you were using iMovie, you would run into a lot of editing problems. By the way, the same was true with the original versions of Final Cut. They were quite challenging. And I actually became a subject matter expert because I wouldn't give up on the software. I'd work to see how to solve the problem and develop a workaround. It didn't take long before on the Apple forums, as it related to those pieces of software, I became a level 6 advisor. I didn't get paid. I didn't get any credits. Well, I got the nice little level 6. That was kind of cool. Saying that I was the top level that in terms of product knowledge and product expertise. And that was based on people coming to me, which was then the result of my working with the brand, engaging with the brand, and finding answers. Then we have the influencer. Influencers act in their own best interests. They have the ability to reach a similar audience. Influencers have a passion to promote their own brand more so than anything else that they talk about. And influencers are expected to be compensated. Now, an influencer campaign is a campaign that resides in the earned media channel. Even though we're paying influencers and we're giving some sort of compensation to our brand ambassadors, we're asking these people to do something. The difference is that we can't control what they're saying. We can in review, but we can't control what they say to begin with. We can give them ideas. We can try and influence the influencers, but they're going to tell their story. Paid advertising is where we get to tell the story that we want, with the words that we want, with the timing that we want, with the amount of space that we want, all based on how much we're willing to pay. That's the difference between paid and earned. With earned media, we're relying on other people to tell our story. And the reason they tell the story is because we've earned their trust. So keep that in mind as we go forward. That, folks, will bring us to the end of this overview, other than to say you're going to be picking either a brand ambassador or you're going to be picking an influencer. One last note, the brand ambassador, what we're really looking for is a fan. And that's all they need to be. They can be just a fan. However, we get some bonus points here if we find a fan that has some influencer capabilities. Now, I like to equate influencers to what you may hear floating around as new media journalists. These are people that they're telling stories, they're telling their own stories, they're engaging their own fans, either through their photos and videos on Instagram, either through their microblogging on Facebook, through their videos on TikTok or YouTube, or Rumble, or Vimeo. There's a lot of different platforms out there, and these individuals are that's where they're telling their stories. So we want to take a look at that as we get into week 2 and we start to try and find actual people that we want to choose. Okay? All right, I think that's everything I had for you. This is Dr. John, and welcome to week 1 of New Media Marketing.